All right, we are live for another episode of Real Estate Junkies Podcast. Today we have with us Raj Sahoo out of Austin, Texas. Raj has, built a business really unconventional considering how, traditional real estate sales business goes. So I thought, I bring him on for an episode, kind of breaking down his journey in real estate and talk about what he is doing to dramatically grow his business. I mean, we'll talk about his numbers, but when I looked at those numbers, they looked unreal to me. So I want to make it real by bringing him on the episode. Raj, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you for being here, bro.
Thanks for having me on, Saeed.
Great, great. So let's get right into it. I have a lot of questions to ask you, breaking down how you're growing your business. So tell us a little bit about how you, I guess, got into real estate. What got you into real estate? And give us a little breakdown on, how you got started in the real estate sales business.
Sure. So I got in very simply. I think a lot of realtors can relate to this. They were buying a home. And so I was buying a home as a consumer. I had no interest in becoming a realtor. And when my wife and I started looking at homes, we found new construction homes. And I always thought new construction was reserved for the ultra wealthy. I thought every home was just a custom home. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, so we didn't have these big master plan communities with these nationwide builders like we do here in Austin. And once I found these different builders and the different floor plans that they offered, I realized my wife and I didn't have to compromise as much if we could build from scratch and pick all of our options.
Hmm.
The problem I found is it was overwhelming. There's so many builders, there's so many floor plans, there's so many communities, there's so many options. I didn't know which ones were good for resale. I didn't know anything, right? I was a first-time home buyer. Never
And
looked
there's
at
so
real
many
estate
unknowns,
before.
right? Builders don't tell the consumers about, right?
Right. And look, they're in the business of sales, right? They want to sell a home. So sometimes that means limiting the amount of options they show you to make sure that you get in the door and your budget doesn't get blown up. And that actually happened to us personally. And it made me very upset because I didn't feel like I had the representation to step in and say, no. We want to look at all the options. Don't worry about our budget. We can figure that out. We're adults. We can do math, right? And I had nobody to step in. I felt like I was all alone kind of going into that, even with having an agent as representation. Don't get me wrong. Our agent was good, definitely above average. I just felt like if I specialized in new construction, I could provide a lot of value there, value that I wasn't getting as a consumer.
Yeah.
Does it make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So buying a house, what was that like? Like in between you buying the house and getting into real estate, what was that period like? And obviously, like, let's get into like what did you do before real estate, right?
Yeah.
And uh, what triggered? I guess like I don't know, I buy cell phones. Like I bought this phone when I bought it. I was at the Verizon store and the reps sucked in sales, like meaning you can tell like they haven't been really trained on sales. And I was like literally coaching. I have a coach in me, right? Anytime I'm in any sales scenario, I'm like coaching the other person, like, hey, this is how you should sell to me, right? So
Right.
what was it for you that triggered like, okay, I should go get into real estate?
Video marketing. So I was looking up different neighborhoods online. Was a busy working professional. This was pre-kid, so I guess I thought I was busy. But builders were very undermarketed. They didn't know what they were
Mhm.
doing. They had these weird CGI images of their homes online that looked awful, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And there was no online content. I thought
Mhm.
I was coming from the related credit related services industry, so 7 years consulting in that industry. There's not a whole lot that you can talk about when you're talking about finance and credit, right? Am I going to show a report or a P&L? It's really
So were
boring.
you working for someone or was it
I was
like a
working for somebody
commission based?
else. Yes.
Okay.
So I was working for somebody else. And that was also the intriguing part about real estate because you can build your dream or somebody will hire you to build theirs. And I've always
Yeah.
been a big believer of that. But what I was getting at with content is real estate is very visual and nobody was showing that online. I just thought
Yeah.
if the market's untapped, I'm not a videographer. I don't know
Mhm.
anything about photography or videography, but I think if I can get in and just get good at doing some of these videos,
Yeah.
I felt like I can make traction. And that was a big reason why I got involved.
Wow. And what was the first year like? Obviously, you didn't just go in and, do the numbers you're doing right now. Like what was that first year journey for you? Like what were the biggest struggles you were facing then?
First year journey was tough. So my first sale was January of 2020. And I'd maybe gone full time in real estate a couple months prior to that. So first sale, January 2020, second sale is March of 2020 when everything shuts down. So I just didn't know what was happening. I knew I wanted to get into videos already prior to the pandemic getting started. But when everything froze, it was just, I was pretty much glued to the news. I didn't know what was happening. And that summer of 2020, I remember going out with a handful of clients that I was working. And one of them, we were supposed to meet with a builder, and the model home was shut down. And that model home was shut down because the builder had sold 43 homes that morning. That was a builder that was selling about 2 homes a month, and they sold 43 in one morning. So I realized I really need to get this going and start ramping up because something's happening. I didn't really get a good grasp on that, but first year was tough. I did have some friends and family moving that helped, but
Mhm.
I did maybe a handful of transactions. I think it was maybe 8 or 9 throughout the year,
Yeah.
but I procrastinated YouTube. I didn't really get serious about YouTube until spring of 2021, and that's when everything took off.
Now, before we get into the YouTube conversation, right? That will be like pretty much what we talk about the whole time. What did you try? I mean, before YouTube, before getting into YouTube, while you're procrastinating, brokerage you were part of, what were they telling you to do, right? Like a lot of people get into real estate. What I have found, right, 11 years of experience, is that people think like they see this outer picture, right, perception of what it's like to be a real estate agent,
Right.
and they become real estate agent. They're like, oh, marketing, it's fine. Like I could talk to friends and family about buying a house, but then they get into real estate, they figure out, oh, all these different hats they wear, right? Like real estate agents wear, like, the transaction side of things, the consulting side of things, the negotiation, everything, right? So what were you trying to get business before YouTube?
Open houses. So I
Wow.
did 2 open houses. I think open houses are great, by the way. I think it is a good lead gen platform, but I would never do it again. I was out in the morning putting up signs at like 7 o'clock. And then I was just waiting in a house anxiously, just like tapping my finger, like, come on, this is, sure. I didn't have any work to do on my phone. I know
Yeah.
agents can probably get busy very fast with, non revenue producing
Yeah.
activities, right? While waiting for people. And I remember one of the first people that came in, they were just hanging out at the front door, but not walking in. So I opened the door and I totally scared them. So they scared, I'm scared now. And then they're walking into home. And it was just the most awkward thing
Awkward.
I've ever dealt with. Right. I think you can still get business that way. But I realized sitting in those open houses, what am I doing? I can make evergreen content on YouTube, establish myself
Mm,
with this strong online presence where in the future, maybe I don't even need to post because that evergreen content is going to
yeah.
continue to play. And so I pretty much did those lead gen activities, but I was mostly procrastinating YouTube out of a fear of doing video, but constantly thinking about YouTube and
Yeah.
thinking about it doesn't do anything. It
Yeah.
wasn't until I actually acted on it that things started to happen.
Yeah, and I get it. Like it all, sure, it works. Open house works, door
Yeah.
knocking works, cold calling works, right? But it comes down to this, right? What I have seen 3 years of coaching and training agents. I still got agents in my coaching business. There's some of them probably watching this. Are like, oh, you're talking about me, right? Is they cold call, right? And I always tell them like it's a matter of marketing one to one versus one to many, right? It's a matter of you understanding trading time for money versus leveraging time to get money, right?
Yes.
So when you understand that concept, it can easily, like, how many hours does it take to do an open house? Anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, I would say, to do it right, right?
Right.
So 4 to 6 hours of prospecting, marketing, right? Like putting yourself out there gets you what, 5 potential names and numbers and emails, 10 maximum, right? People coming to your open house. You just do the math, right? And if you have done enough consistently open houses, I don't know, if you did 50 of them in a year, right, and you record the data and you track the data, you will see that the time that you spent in doing those, sure, you will probably close. If you did 50 open houses, I don't know, you probably close 20 deals, right? Probably, if you're doing everything right. You do the math, right? Like, how much am I getting paid per hour just to host these open houses? Now, you talked about YouTube, right? And you got into real estate under seeing the gap in the market, right? What was, I guess, like, can you share a moment in that time period, right? In that first 1 year that you didn't do YouTube, right? What was that significant turning point for you that shaped your approach to real estate? Like, hey, I'm gonna, you knew that. First of all, tell us, how did you know that YouTube was the opportunity, right? And then what was that turning point for you? Like, you know what? I'm just gonna dive in.
Sure. So the first question of how did I know? I thought it was a big trend that I saw was happening. My wife and I cut our cable maybe back in 2018, and then I got a YouTube subscription because I found I was going to YouTube just to watch history and watch soccer highlights and things that I really enjoy and things that were also informing me. And I felt like that was going to happen in real estate. The turning point was rupturing my Achilles tendon at the end of 2020, where I was playing soccer. And of course, with gyms getting shut down, I went right back into soccer after a 6-month break of maybe not working out as much as I was pre-pandemic. And then just like that, ruptured my Achilles tendon. And in January 2021, my wife we found out my wife was pregnant with our first child. And so on one hand, I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. On the other hand, I was so miserable because I was just sitting on this couch with a big boot, walking around on crutches, asking myself, how am I going to support my family while I can't even walk and I'm bathing on a shower stool, right? And that was a bit depressing at that time, but I shook myself out of that after a few days of maybe, feeling bad for myself or beating myself up. And I realized this is my opportunity to learn YouTube. I'd done maybe a handful of videos prior to getting injured. So I realized it was a little bit harder than I thought. It's not just, click shoot and you make great content. You're pretty bad in the beginning. So I figured I could learn tactics and strategies. And by the time my crutches came off, I could hit the ground running. And that's exactly what I did in 2021, where I just started posting 2 times a week. One realization I had, Saeed, is I'm not very creative. So I found that creating content on a weekly basis and trying to figure out what I'm going to post was very overwhelming for me. What I'd rather have is a formula that worked. And I created a formula around home tours. So I figured there's nothing but homes to tour, especially with builders. They have a lot of finished homes that they want marketing around. I could do that marketing. I could walk those homes. I would get better at it over time. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow. And it's not easy to get on video, right? Like I've been on this journey myself, like last 3 years, right? And coming up with topics and, bad luck for you. You didn't have Chat GPT back then, right? Like now it's so much more easier,
Exactly.
right? Like I published since our event last week, right? I published 3 videos so far, right? I got 5 new subscribers to my channel. I'm like geeked out. Like I'm like,
Nice.
this is so excited, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, like it's not very easy to get on video, right? Like talking head videos, talking on the video. Like a lot of people have, I guess, like they're not very confident about how they sound or how they look, right? So for you, obviously, right, you did home tours, right? How'd you go about like, okay, what type of video I'm gonna do, right? How'd you come to the conclusion, right? Like this unconventional strategy of like, you know what, all I'm gonna do is home tours, right? And a lot of yours videos, I was watching them last night with my wife, and I was like, look at this guy, like this guy is really, really creative, right? And you're over here like, I'm not that creative, right? It's like you put in you can tell there was a lot of time put into planning, talking like on the voiceovers, right? But this is like the end product. Like what was it like for you in the beginning when you were trying to put in time into YouTube creating video? Like tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah, it was a good question. It was terrible. In summary, it was so difficult to talk about each room. I didn't even know what things were called. So it felt like walking like naked in public, right? I just didn't I didn't know. And I think I felt like the more I talked, the more everybody who was listening could tell that I didn't know, right? But I just thought to myself, you know what? Even if nobody reaches out to me, because clearly these videos are terrible, at least I'll learn all the plans. At least I'll learn something so I can consult better when clients reach out to me, whenever that is. And I did get better. Just like anything else you do in your life, you get better. It's maybe a slow process. YouTube is definitely a marathon, but I started getting better over time. And I didn't want to put myself in the videos because then it was a little bit awkward, like walking around with me in it. Also, when you're inside of a home, even if you have a videographer, to expose properly for me in the home, the problem with that is it whitewashes all the windows. So I started touring homes, especially like 5 months into YouTube, that had beautiful views. I don't want people to see me and then the windows are whitewashed. I want them to see that beautiful view out the living room that looks out for miles, right? And so for my first 150 videos, I didn't put myself in any of my videos. It was just forward facing. I didn't really advertise myself. I really just focused on the home and
Mhm.
touring the home. Maybe later on in the video, I would do like some sort of call to action of
Yeah.
here's why you want to reach out to me. I've worked with X amount of builders and I've had experience in these areas, and I'll definitely guide you in the right direction. But in the beginning of the video, I really just focused on the home, touring the home, covering options, and really covering things that I wanted to hear as a consumer when my wife
Yeah.
and I were looking at homes, just a couple years prior to that.
Yeah. And it's very unconventional because your usual traditional real estate agents would want to be in the video and like,
Right.
show themselves off
Exactly.
and like, brand that is their way of branding themselves, they think, right? Like, oh, I gotta show up in every single footage,
Yeah.
right? So it's definitely very unconventional. Now, uh, what was that journey like, right? Like meaning there are a lot of agents that want to do it, right? But they don't know how long would it take for them to start seeing results? So what was it like for you? Like how long did it take for you to start seeing, like get your first clients, let's just say? Like how many videos did you do? How long was it? And what was that deal like?
Sure. I was doing 2 videos a week starting April of 2021. I started getting my first few leads 2 months after that, but they were just trickling in, maybe like 1
Yeah.
lead a week, and it wasn't until about 3 to 4 months in, I started to hone in really on starter homes, and at the time, all the luxury homes were sold out. It's like the
Mhm.
first time builders were sold out, so it was
Yeah.
an interesting time. There were buyers looking, I'll admit, I mean, it was definitely a hot market. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody remembers, I think, 2021 if you're a realtor at that time. So there are definitely a lot of buyers on market, but there wasn't a whole lot to show. So I just started showing starter homes. Like people might be
Mhm.
familiar with like your DR Horton, Pulte, like your high volume
Yeah.
builders. And I started getting a lot of leads that were interested in that median home price or less
Lower
product,
price. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in September of 2021, about 5 months after I started posting consistently, I had 4 clients contract on starter homes with that high volume builders, and that month, my GCI when those homes eventually closed was over 50,000, and
Wow.
that's when I knew something was working. And actually, fortunately for me, a month or two prior to that, September, maybe like August timeframe, I started posting luxury homes because I
Mhm.
knew that the inventory was going to come back towards
Yeah.
the end of that year. And then at the end of the year, after posting a little bit more balanced luxury homes and starter homes, my channel took off. When I
Yeah.
contracted on those 4 clients, I had 200 subscribers at that time. I wasn't getting that many views, but in 3 months after that, everything 10x. I went from 200 subscribers to 2,000 subscribers. I had my watch time, views, everything 10x, and I just got overwhelmed with leads.
Wow. And for those of you who may listen in, one of the, I guess, like I identified the reason why you took off so fast was because you were so niche down, right? You were like very clear on who you want to go after. You were not like putting out content like seller content, this week and next week, like, first time home buyer content, and then the follow. You were like new construction, home tours only. And I
Right.
think but when it comes to marketing, a lot of us make that mistake, is that we have this fear of missing out, right? We have this FOMO about like, oh, if I target and create content around, new construction, then, people who are not interested in new construction are not going to come out. How'd you deal with that? Like, how'd you come up with like, you know what, I'm just going to stick to that and just go all in on that?
Efficiency was key. So my wife and we delivered on our first child September of 2021. So I knew that time was coming. First time parents. I didn't want to be overwhelmed running around the city. I really wanted to niche down to be efficient and provide
Yeah.
max value to that client that I knew I could provide a lot of value in, because I was constantly working in that certain price point, certain area of Austin, and new construction only, like you mentioned. I referred everybody else out. So I started getting good at networking with
Wow.
other
You didn't
agents.
even want to
Who were
work with them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then I look, I probably left thousands on the table, but I
Sure.
also gained a lot of time back with,
Yeah.
family and actually having a life, which I thought was important, and not trying to be greedy and get every single dollar I could out
Yeah.
of every commission. But I think most importantly, I turned that into a great call to action. So in a lot of my videos, like in 2023, just last year, I would introduce myself maybe 30 to 60 seconds into the video, because the first part I would always focus on the home. And 30 to 60 seconds in the video, I'd say, hey, by the way, my name is Raj Sahoo. I'm a realtor in Austin, Texas, and you shouldn't work with me as a realtor. More on that later. And then I
Mhm.
go right back into the home. And it sounded
Take
like,
away
wait,
clothes, right?
yeah,
Before.
did that guy just say, he doesn't want to work with me? Everybody else is advertising themselves. Everybody else is work with me, work with me, work with me. And I'm saying, don't work with me. Obviously, later on in the video, I would clarify and I would say, I only take on a very select client that I think I can
That's
provide a lot of
amazing.
value for. And for other people, I still connect you with one of my realtor partners who's more specialized in your area of interest. And
Mm.
that way, I'm honest and upfront with you on who I think is best. Because it's the biggest purchase of your life. Why wouldn't you want to work with somebody who's experienced in what you need? And that pitch, that call to action really worked.
I'm gonna include that in my videos. Like, this is genius. Like, you're already taking away the opportunity before they even think of it in their mind of contacting you, right? You're like, hey, don't contact me, right? Like, if I might not be the right person, right? So it actually triggers your consumer or your client, potential client, to really like think about you as the potential realtor, right? Like, is this the guy? Like, do I qualify to work with him? Like,
Yeah.
it's the other way around, instead of like, does he qualify for me to reach out to him? That's amazing. Now, give us a number, right? Like, meaning, throw some numbers out there for us, the people who are like on the fence about getting on video, getting on specifically YouTube, right? And it's a beast on its own, right? Like, what was your GCI numbers 2021, 2022, 2023? Like, I know the numbers. I just want to have my
Yeah,
audience
absolutely.
hear those numbers. Yeah.
Sure. So in 2021, and I will say I do new construction, so the sales tend to lag because I have to wait till they close. But focusing on closed sales, I did 4.3 million in 2021. In 2022, I did 8.7 million.
Wow.
In
Double.
2023, I did 19.8 million. My
Wow.
GCI was just over 482,000 last year.
Wow. And it's all new construction.
All new construction. I've run 0 ads, so I haven't spent a dollar in any ads for YouTube or elsewhere. I don't even have signs because I've never done a listing before. That might change this year as I finally
Yeah.
have some buyers sell. And then I haven't written a resale offer in 2.5 years. So I strictly am new construction, and obviously
So
the
you do
resale
not
doesn't.
sell houses that are already built.
Right, right. And look, sometimes builders do have a lot of homes that
Yeah,
are under
those are still
construction.
new construction. Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
majority of my buyers do end up building from scratch because I tend to focus now on forever home buyers, and
Mm.
forever home buyers don't really want to compromise too much.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And new construction probably for the next 5 to 10 years would be like the thing, right, in real estate. And agents who focus on new construction, they're probably going to do as great as you have been doing, right? You're probably very, very early adapters to this trend. Now, as far as like, this is dramatically change in like production, right? Like 4 million to 8 million to 19 million, right? Almost 3x, right? How has that shifted your, I guess, mindset around real estate business? And did that like change your life in a way? Like, are you putting more time in to go from 8 to 19 million, right? Like, what a lot of agents that I talk to, and I talk about like, hey, scaling your business, hey, this is what's possible. And they're like, oh my God, I don't have that much time, right? So what is it? Like, are you like running around like a chicken with a head cut off, or, do you see more clarity now in your business?
So much more clarity. I'll be the first to admit when we had our daughter, our first child, she's 2 years old now. It was so hectic. I was running around everywhere. I didn't have systems or processes in place. And yeah, I was that chicken running around with his head cut off. Now it's a lot different. So I've had a video editor now for over a year. My video editor, of course, edits my videos, but also does all my posting. So I haven't posted a YouTube video in well over a year because that
Wow.
posting's done with somebody who has worked for me in the Philippines. I've now hired a videographer. I've had him on for about 4 months. And so
Mhm.
I don't record videos for the most part. Sometimes I'll just do it because I want to tour that home. It's a new plan, maybe
Yeah.
with a builder. It's just got a beautiful view, and I love
Yeah.
taking it in and doing that video, which takes me about 20 minutes. But 95% of my videos are done by my videographer. So if you actually do a breakdown, which I shared in Detroit, which we saw together, I have a system using a software platform called Trello where I
Mhm.
just populate addresses in a column. My videographer has access to that. He sees
Yeah.
those addresses. He goes out and gets all the shots. When he
Yeah.
uploads those shots, my video editor gets notified in the Philippines. My editor goes right to work, starts editing the intros and those
Yeah.
different shots, starts dubbing music over top of some things. And then it comes to my column and I get notified and I just have to do a voiceover. So
Yeah.
now my weekly schedule is just doing voiceovers. And it takes me about an hour to do a voiceover on a home tour that might take about 20-25 minutes in length for
Mhm.
that video. So around an hour. And then my video editor takes that footage and posts it, does the description, does the title, edits the thumbnail, everything that's needed. So
Yeah.
now my system is working and takes care of my content. I just have to work with clients that I really want to take on. And now I know all the plans. I know all the builders. The builders reach out to me when they have a new community or new plans, but that really only happens once every like 2 to 3 months. I'm
Yeah.
really just working the plans that I already know. And even
Yeah.
beyond that, I've already had buyers build those plans. So I
Mhm.
just signed a buyer last week. Probably 60 to 70% of the floor plans that we're looking at, I've
Yeah.
already had past buyers buy. So I've
Mhm.
literally seen those same floor plans get built from scratch by that builder.
Mhm.
And I can
Yeah.
tell that buyer all the pros and cons of all the builders, meaning I'm not only systematized and very efficient, I'm also providing so much more value to
Value. Yeah.
clients. I
Yeah.
think that combination is special.
Wow. And okay, so there's few different things. And it's interesting when I saw your workflow, right? It's the exact workflow we teach through Karen Carr's coaching in our coaching program, right? With the Trello and like, provide, hiring a video editor and having a videographer. And obviously it's not new construction or home tours, it's actually talking head videos. And it's interesting to see someone else that I had no connection with and you had no connection with, Karen Carr, using the same systems. The systems work, right?
Right.
Regardless of where you learn it from. Now, beyond that, you mentioned like, those who probably may want to do the same thing you're doing, right? Like home tours and, hiring an editor and getting into it will probably take them time to get into the
Yes.
efficiency that level that you are. But what is your work week like? How many hours a week you're working right now?
I haven't really had a good gauge on it because last year, not to share,
Yeah.
keep sharing my personal story, but
Yeah.
my wife
No,
and I
that's
had
all
a,
we
a
want to
son.
hear.
Yeah, my wife and I had a second child, so we had a baby boy a few months ago. So
Congrats. Yeah,
yeah,
4
thank
months,
you.
right?
So yeah, yes, 4 months exactly. So we're excited, and we have a handful. We have a toddler and a baby at home. So maybe like the last year, late last year, was I after it? No, I was referring out 98% of leads that
Whew.
came through. After the new year, I started taking more people on. I've signed quite a few buyers, and I've now worked with a realtor partner on other homes that I don't actually want to be involved with in terms of showings and operations. So I have some different things going on in 2024. If I had to give you a ballpark, I'm probably around 50 to 60 hours a week. Whereas during the pandemic, I was literally 70 to 90 hours a week. And when I
Wow.
mean 70 to 90, I don't mean thinking about real estate. I think I used to think I was busy working a lot, working 80 hours a week. I was just thinking a lot. Thinking
Yeah,
doesn't actually do anything. You should
yeah,
analyze, don't get me
yeah,
wrong, but that shouldn't be the bulk of your work.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
high producing activities, 8 a.m. contract calls, talking about what the builder's providing, then doing 9 p.m. at night Zoom calls, talking to new clients and talking about Austin and the bidding wars. I mean,
yeah.
I was after it 70 to 80 hours a week.
Wow. And you basically eliminated half your work hours, but
Yeah.
you're producing 3 times more, right? Compared to when you first started. That is amazing. And how many hours per client? Like if there is someone out there who might want to go all in on new construction, how many hours would you assign to every single client that you're serving right now for new construction?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say around I would say give a ballpark like 25 to 30 hours, just because there's a lot of time in the beginning of looking around, looking
Yeah.
at floor plans, which might
Mhm.
be like the bulk of it, like 10 to 15 hours. Once they contract, it's just that maybe like 3 to 4 meetings, closing, some
Yeah.
things that,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
actually have a lot of involvement with me, but I still show up. And that
Yeah.
would be another, about 10 to 15 hours as a rough
Yeah.
ballpark. But right now, keep in mind, I'm able to get leads that are calling me already exploring the floor plans online with builders. And so when they call me, they already say, I like this floor plan, I like this floor plan. And when they say those two things, I already know a lot of their criteria. They need 2 bedrooms down. They probably love the tall ceilings. They love the windows. They like the vibe of that
There's
builder.
not
So
a
they
whole
wear them
lot of
hard.
browsing
Yeah,
and
exactly. So we
time.
get right to it. And then the browsing I do is when they sign with me to work with me as a realtor, I build out a buyer board also through Trello, and I start posting different links to different floor plans. And so I have a buyer where they signed with me last Wednesday. What is it? Tuesday. So we're less than a week. We've already toured 30 plus homes. And
No
that's
way.
because they wanted to move here in a couple months, but they're debating on buying an inventory home with a builder that's already under construction and almost finished, or building from scratch. And we're pretty much ruling out like 15 to 20 homes that are already built out, that
Mm.
they're compromising here, they're compromising there. I think they're already leaning towards buying something new. And all those other new floor plans I already had videos for. So I'm just copying
Mm.
and pasting, populating into this board, but providing a ton of value and giving them lots of options that
Yeah.
they can tour through.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's like, and I could see like over time you could only get better at with a system like that with the amount of time you would spend, right? And it all depends on how much more you want to produce, right? Like sky's the limit with that. Now, as far as you mentioned like you're systemizing yourself, right? So let's talk about like what is the cost for that, right? Like first of all, let's ask you how many leads per month are you? How many videos per month are you putting out? How many leads per month are you getting? And what is the cost for those videos for you to put out per month?
On average, I have about 10 to 30 leads coming in. That
Mm.
has skyrocketed here in January. So it could get to like 30 to 50. But during 2023, obviously, when the market was pulling
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
that's where it got on the lower end of that
Mhm.
range. In terms of cost, it has fluctuated as I ramped up video production. And now I'm scaling back because I have
Yeah.
30 to 40 videos kind of ready to go. And I got to start doing voiceovers. But when I would say on average, I'm spending $200 to $300 a month on a video editor that's overseas that
Mhm.
does all my posting.
Yeah.
And then for a videographer, I'm spending about $800 to $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
Now, this month or the next 30 days, because I have so many videos already done by my videographer, that might go down to like
Yeah.
$200 for the next
Yeah.
month. So it
Yeah.
does fluctuate. I'm still trying to, grasp what that balance looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But I would say as a rough ballpark, all in around $1,500. I'd be
Mm.
surprised if it went beyond 1,500.
Wow, that is very, very efficient, right?
Yeah.
And you said 2 videos a week, 8 videos
Videos.
a month is your goal?
Yeah, if this year I'll ramp back up to 3, or I not ramp back up. This will be my new thing of going to 3. I don't think I want to go more than 3. I do have a second channel that I'm starting where I'm just mic'd up. It's so much easier to post content, and it's just my goal of getting more footage of more plans because some of these homes are not that appealing. They still have blue tape everywhere from the builder. They're still under
Mhm.
construction,
Yeah.
but I still want to capture them while I'm there in that community, especially
Yeah.
because I contract in 3 communities mostly. 19 of my last 22 contracts were in 3 communities. So sometimes I'm on a meeting at 1 o'clock, it ends at 2, but I have another meeting at 3. So I have an hour to kill. I can go tour 2 homes that are under construction and post them on my second channel.
Yeah. Wow. And what's the point behind the second channel? Well, why are you doing second channel?
Sure. So I'm just starting out with this. So big disclaimer here, it's working, it's starting to work, but I'm still in the early stages. I did it for exclusivity and to just get more content of homes that maybe aren't that visually appealing and
Yeah.
would bomb on my main channel. So I have this second channel to kind of have all these different homes. The main problem with my core channel is I tour these beautiful model homes with builders. They're heavily designed, they're staged, they're
Mhm.
beautiful, but they're never for sale. So a lot
Yeah.
of people say, well, what's the price? And I don't want to give the price in the video because it's a base price. You have to add, it's too long of
Yeah.
a discussion to
Yeah.
explain in a home tour. So what I like to do is say, hey, if you want to see this floor plan, this model home that's actually for sale, click on this video. And that's usually a less
So
visually
you're
appealing.
bringing traffic into the news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it goes to that second channel. Now I'm starting to say that, hey, if you want to see homes that are coming up for sale, I post them exclusively on my website
Yeah.
and they gradually get posted maybe a month or 2 later to YouTube. And so now people are landing on my website and I'm able to capture those leads that maybe weren't as serious because
Yeah.
that's really all my volume. All my volume was from people who just called me from my phone number in the description, which is a horrible call to action because they got to look
Yeah.
at the description, right, type in the number, right? I should have a website, and I finally created that, and now I'm getting a lot of leads, pretty much a lead almost every single day, and I'm just
Yeah, you could
starting to
track it. Like you could track it now,
yeah,
right? Like you know
exactly.
where this traffic is coming
Yeah.
from, which video, right? You could even use different landing pages for different type of floor plans, so you know where the leads are coming from. Having the phone number, I don't know how you did it. It's just like you could lose track very easy, right? Especially real estate agents. We're not good at answering phone calls, and if we are, putting that putting that number into a database is another challenge, right?
So
Now, as
I
far
actually
as
use Trello on that side. Real quick, I put
yeah,
Trello, and my goal was not to track people and do email marketing. It was to refer them to a partner agent, or I work with them. It's one or the other, or I
track it.
lose that lead somehow,
Yeah.
right? And so that was my way of doing it. But yeah, there's definitely a better way, like you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's so many hot topics, right, with you. Is that number one, you're on YouTube, which is very, like, I would say, hottest way to generate leads in 2024 is YouTube, hands down. Nothing else could beat it right now. Number two, new construction, right? Like the hottest category of sales in 2024 up until, I don't know, 2030, and even going beyond. There's inventory challenge will stay there, that, which is like majority of agents I talk to, like, what is the biggest challenge you have in your market right now? Inventory, right? Inventory or high rates. Those are two things, right? Which you're beating with being a new construction. People who are interested in new construction, yes, sure, they care about rates, right? But they know that there are some builder incentives and all that, so it kind of helps with that, right? But these people are not your average buyers who are tire kicking, considering buying or not, right? They know they want to buy. That's why they're doing new construction. So that's second, right? And then third thing is, because of systemization, right, is you're able to cut back on time, right? Over time, I could only see you becoming more and more efficient with your time, unless you're scaling up, starting a team, or having an office or something like that. You should be able to, like, minimize the amount of time, which is like a hot topic with a lot of real estate agents. So now my question would be, agents who are considering getting into new construction, getting into YouTube, or cutting back on the amount of time they spend unproductive, right? What would you say, like, the biggest challenge, and you have gone through the journey yourself, right? That they can, I guess, like, avoid. What are those things? Is it building relationship with a lot of builders? Like, what are those, like, helpful top tips you can give for someone who wants to walk your own path?
Sure. So I think the buddy system is what I would talk about first. If you're doing this alone, like I was doing, it was really difficult because I was monitoring other YouTubers in my marketplace, and my life would have been so much easier if I just picked up the phone and called them. But I just started monitoring them. I started picking off strategies and tactics they were using. I would later work with them together, and I was so glad I did, because everything that I thought I knew, I didn't realize their mentality behind things. And
Yeah.
oftentimes the
Principles. Yeah.
mentality
Yeah.
behind a strategy or a tactic is actually the most important part,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you shouldn't be copying anybody. And so that's
Mm.
actually one of the topics I would talk about. Is a lot of people look at YouTube, they find the biggest YouTuber in their marketplace, and they just try to copy exact same videos that person's done. If you're thinking about copying, everybody else is thinking about copying. And when
Yeah.
you don't differentiate yourself from your competition, you're just like everybody else, and your channel dies like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would copy people's tactics and strategies, but incorporate it into your own personality and
Yeah.
focus on being different. I talked about it in my talk in Detroit. Is like, being different is better than better. That's something I had written above my laptop for over a year. And it's because it's so appealing to watch somebody else and just say, oh, I can do that, I'll copy them. It's so much better to just be different. And
Yeah.
at that time, not that many more people were posting about new construction and talking about the options and all this stuff. People were selling people off of new construction because they wanted a paycheck in 30 days, not
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
9 to 18 months or whatever build times went up to. Whereas I was still showing builders and saying, hey, if you don't want to compromise, the best way to do that is building from scratch, right? And
Mhm.
so that was my way of being different. Now there's a ton of people pouring into my marketplace in YouTube, and that's been the case for the last couple of years. So now I'm going to take it a step further and be a little bit different. So I'm
Yeah.
capturing people a little bit earlier in the process of looking. And I've found the best way to do that is people are looking at Austin, and they're looking at Austin versus another city. So if
Mhm.
you see my channel, you'll see me post about Austin versus other cities to
Yeah.
try to capture those leads early on. But I would say there's a lot of different strategies and tactics. Get with somebody who knows YouTube and partner up with them, or get with somebody who's starting out with YouTube as well and say, hey, I want to post twice a week. Let's keep each other accountable.
Yeah, get
Just
with
like going to the
Raj.
gym.
I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
definitely get with you,
Yeah.
right? Like, you have already done it. Like, yeah, I think the copy paste thing, if you could actually exactly copy the person, you're still better than someone who are not even able to paste it properly, right? Like, but beyond that is the principle thing that you talked about, right? It's like people miss that a lot. Is that they just copy someone else without knowing the
Yes.
principles and mindset behind that strategy. So that's where a lot of pitfalls come. So definitely reach out to Raj. Now, as far as your business goes, 19 million in sales, right? Like I could only imagine there is struggles with that too, right? There's different there are what's it called, different levels, different devils, right? What would you say your biggest challenges in your business or in your market right now for you at this level in your business?
At this level, I would say that's a good question. Well, actually, let me tell you, 6 months ago, I should have never procrastinated getting a videographer. Okay, that was the next step. All I had to do was pick up the phone, talk to somebody in my market who had a videographer. And I didn't realize how easy it was to just get somebody on board, start duplicating what I'm doing. Because the
Mhm.
shots that I'm taking are not anything incredible. It's not like I'm
So you were
Steven
doing your
Spielberg
own
here.
video
Yeah, I was doing my
prior
own
to 6
videos,
months.
and
Oh,
I
okay.
actually told my videographer, like, I appreciate his artistic approach. I remember him going around a vase and, like, in the vase in the middle of the room, he's, like, twirling around it. I said, "Enough with the vase, like, go to every room and be a robot. Pan the room like a buyer would, looking around, look
And
up to the
I'll pay
high.
you $50 less.
Exactly. I don't need all these artistic shots. I should say my videographer does a great job with that in the intro shots, which is a
Oh
quick
yeah, I
glimpse of
see
the
that.
home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but and I think he does a great job with that. But the long shot of just walking through the home, it's just being a robot. So I would say my biggest regret is not doing that earlier. And
Mm.
now that I have this system, I have to say the last 3 months have been amazing because I just met with a buyer last week that had a $1.2 million budget. And I told them if they're going to move up their timeline to move and they want to look at resales, I'm not the best realtor for them. There's somebody else. And that feels
I'll
so
fire
good
you if
to
you
say. Yeah. I
decrease
mean,
your.
right. That was easy to do during the pandemic when it was like, do I want to take another buyer that's like bidding and there's like 30 different bidders on one lot and there was
Mm.
bidders just on pieces of land, right? It was just wild. Now it's actually so much easier to get buyers in
Oh
because
yeah.
there's options. The builders will roll out the red
Mhm.
carpet for you rather than locking their front door and not
Yeah.
answering any of your questions. So it is easier to take on buyers, but it still feels good turning people away knowing that my system is working. So
Mm.
I really don't know what it is right now. Maybe just if I had to think of something, like not looking at my phone every second of every day is something I got to get away from. I think I'm still in that pandemic mode where, no joke, I would get a call and they said, "You're next up on the list and your client has 15 minutes to decide." And then we move on.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
that's the type of call that I would get. So I was glued to my phone. There's probably nothing that I need. Like I just got a call while we're on this from a builder. There's never anything urgent. I got to get away from like looking at my phone all
Yeah.
the time. And that's probably uh, my biggest obstacle I'm trying to overcome right now.
It's the rich people problem, right? Like, oh, now I got to get my time back and
Yeah,
have a more healthy lifestyle, right? Which is good.
yeah,
Amazing. Thanks for sharing your story, bro. I think it will be an inspiration for a lot of agents in the market and those who watch this and listen to this later. And again, you guys want to get a hold of Raj. He showed the system when he was out here in Detroit, and I looked at it. It's like foolproof, meaning like he is following it to the T. I don't know who your Daryl Eves, is that who you said you learned your YouTube from? I guess like let's talk about that for a little bit. How'd you learn YouTube? How'd you get into like around
yeah,
the principles behind YouTube? Yeah.
yeah. So I do have his book on my desk here. That was
Yeah,
recommended to
I
me.
have it right there. Actually, he sent me
Yeah,
for free. I was so geeked out, like, oh my god, Daryl Eves sent me his book.
yeah, right, right. His good book. I have read it, but prior to that, it was really two guys here in the Austin area, and that was Jeremy Knight and Ian of Austin.
Mm.
Those two guys knew YouTube and content really well. Jeremy had the best YouTube channel when I was on that couch with a ruptured Achilles learning YouTube. He was at about 1,500 subscribers, and his channel was going like this, and I was just monitoring everything that he was doing. Ian of Austin has an incredible brand, and
Yeah.
those two guys, I actually mimicked their color scheme and their branding without even calling them. And I just said, I had just changed brokerages at that time. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to put my head down, make things work in YouTube, and
Mm.
then reach out to them when I see a little bit of success and need to lean
Yeah.
on their systems. And that's exactly what I did. I probably should have reached out to them earlier than I did to get their, like, pick off what's happening up
Yeah.
here and then their
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
But they were definitely the game changers in my business because when a lot of growth happened in my YouTube channel, I didn't know how to take it on. I could lean on them for pretty much everything.
Wow. And Jeremy, he shared his story, right? And I looked at a complete different approach from you, right? He doesn't do the new construction walkthroughs. He does like talking head videos, and he showed his like early videos. Like they looked really, really bad, like
Brutal.
bad,
Yeah.
and he was overweight. Like that's an incredible journey, right?
Yeah.
To where he is today. It's amazing. And thanks again for your tips. I'm sure a lot of people would benefit from that. I'm actually going live today showing people how to clone themselves on what I'm doing, right? It's my channel is gonna be fully AI clone. Like it's not gonna be me. I don't really care about like the return on it. I just want to do it as an experiment and see where the channel goes with an AI clone completely talking about real estate. Like it's just for fun. I get a kick out of that. But thanks again, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you for everything. Is Do you have somewhere people can reach out to you? So if anyone has questions, they can go to you.
Sure. So look me up on YouTube. My first name's Raj. My last name's Sahoo. It's like Yahoo with an S. And my phone number's on there. So I answer texts. If you email me, I return all emails from human beings. I'm not, my Instagram and Facebook look pretty inactive because I'm not on there that much. So text or email me is always the best way.
Thank you. Thanks for your time again and again, everyone. Thanks for watching in. Thanks for listening in. If you're interested in YouTube, learn more about YouTube, reach out to Raj, and I will see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, Saeed.